welcome to Awake TV. Today we want to talk about how can we be a great manifester or beginner manifester to create an amazing world together with our consciousness or what we are paying attention to. So a couple of days ago, I was listening to Daniel Scranton's channeling, and then his channeling stuff, came across with a email too. And then I read it, and then that was very interesting. I read it on the 20th. And then 90 Actuarians, who is also my guide, are talking about timeline shift is happening right now. Timeline is spreading. And then which timeline would you like to choose? And then how we choose our timeline is by focusing, choosing what we want to focus on. And then that was completely aligned with what's going on in our world right now. And then I was thinking that was an interesting message. And then, Sue, you sent me amazing transcript on that day, right? And then that made me think as well. Can you share about that a little bit to the audience?
Yes. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't tell you who put it up, but I read it. It was a channeling of a higher energy being that was talking about how we create. And it resonated with me so highly that that's why I passed it on to you. So basically, one of the techniques that was suggested was write your intentions down on a piece of paper. And for what you want to see, what you want to create in your world, and then place it on your heart, which is
Right
we've
hand.
talked
Put on the right hand.
with the right hand. Now, I'm not so sure it matters which hand, but they said the right hand. When we do quantum healing, we always ask the individual to use their dominant hand. So I'm not sure it matters, but you put it on the piece of paper on your chest and you go stand in the sun where you're connecting with those higher energies, and you speak the words. So, and this goes into what I would suggest are the three ways that we create. We create through our thoughts, we create through our words, and we create through our deeds, the actions that we take. And so by being intentional about our creation is very, very important. And what I would suggest is that staying out of fear-based thoughts and words and deeds is key, because there's really only two emotions in the whole wide world, and it's love or fear. And we have to ask ourselves, are we in a loving, so like joy and hope for the future, all of those fall into love. Anger, resentment, all of those fall into fear. Okay, so over the general category. So, we can be very intentional creators in our own world if we put our focus into what we want to see, and that, I believe, is what brings us to our ultimate timeline.
Yeah.
So if I look at something going on around me in the world and I focus on that, I'm going to bring more of that to me. I'm going to be on a timeline where more and more fear comes into the picture because I'm bringing it. It's my responsibility.
So remember, we have been talking to our audience like it's very important to focusing on our internal world instead of what's going on outside.
Yes.
Like I have been as instructed by my guide and Actuarians, do not focus on outside. So even though I did go on the boat like 80 years ago, I wasn't really watching TV at all. So I heard whatever the stuff happened here and there. I wasn't really watching anything. And then that was really helpful for me to focusing on my internal peaceful world. Like no matter what's going on outside, I was always peaceful. And, when you started to engage in yourself with outside of activity, whatever it is, right? And then you start notice your peaceful world is not as peaceful as when you are just focusing on your little world instead of outside, it's hard to manage because it's not, you know, you it does seem like you are not the one who is managing, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I agree with you completely. We cannot manage other people's realities. And I would say that outside of keeping our vibration as high as it can be, that is our gift to the collective. That is the way that we contribute to a more positive outcome, is by keeping our energy high. But if I'm looking at something outside of myself and I'm becoming fearful, or I'm trying to control it in any way, I've just given my power away to fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what we're saying, Erica, and I agree with you completely, is by coming back into focus, it's not that we don't see what's going on in our outside world, but as I was just putting in an email to a friend today, he's a journalist, and he gets rather caught up in the emotion of everything that he's reporting about.
Mm.
Okay. And I think that's kind of like one of those pitfalls of being in that job in
Yeah.
reporting and being a journalist. Okay, because once we see so many things, it's hard not to get caught up in. And I was saying to him, what I suggest is, because that's your job and that's what you're doing, yes, you're going to see it, yes, you're going to have your own feelings about it, and do that. Allow yourself to feel however you feel, but don't unpack your bags and stay there. You're not of it, you're just
Yeah.
seeing it.
Yeah.
And this is what I suggest to anybody that I'm working with is, you don't have to accept other people's realities as your own. We have that choice, right?
Yeah. We are like responsible as a creator because each of us are creator being, and each of us are contributing the matrix outside. And then the choice is, what do you want to focus on? Do you want to focus on something makes you fearful, or any kind of message or anything divide us? Divide us means dark versus light. That's the division. Anything divide us, suck us into 3D world. So when we are focusing on outside, it's never good, because whole point of Actuarian message was by Daniel Scranton. Even them, 90 Actuarians, they are saying they are very careful about what they are aligning themselves into, because once you align yourself into, you become that vibration.
Yes.
And that's 90 Actuarian. We are 40, okay? So we definitely gonna get sucked into it once we shift our focus into something we don't feel good about, right? So anything it doesn't make you feel good means make you feel relaxed and fuzzy and peaceful, feel good. It's not worth for you to focusing on.
Right. Don't stay there in that. Well, and that brings about a point, when people talk about the year 2020, I
Mhm.
hear a lot of awfulization. What a horrible year. What's coming next? Are we going to have a tornado? I mean, all of these thoughts and energy going into how awful it was. And I suggest that there's another way of looking at it. And that is that we can look at 2020 as a big eye-opening, okay, 2020 vision, right? A big eye-opening year for, what do we choose for our lives? What are we leaning towards? We've been given the opportunity to see all these different dynamics, and we are being asked at this time of ascension, which is just waking up, remembering who we are as creative beings. We have been given the opportunity to see all of these different things, to question for ourselves, find our truth, and decide, make decisions about who we are. And is that a bad thing? I don't know. Do we need to put a label on it, or can we say it just is? And once we can accept what is, we see it, we find meaning for it within ourselves, and then we move forward. What's the best possible way to move forward? Am I looking at things as awful and terrible and horrible? And that's victim mentality. That's victim mentality. Or do we want to look at something and say, yeah, you know, I got through that. I mean, I had to make some adjustments in my life. I had to consider what I felt, you know, I had to consider my health. What's the best way to keep myself healthy, and my family and my children's education, for example? You know, that education changed because everybody had to stay home. So, I mean, we can look at something like that and decide for ourselves that, oh, everything was just so horrible, and that's staying in the fear-based energetic. And I would recommend not doing that
Yeah, that's a
because,
good idea to count the blessings.
yeah, gratitude list, that's a great thing. That's a great way. That's how I get myself out of fear, because I go into it. I'm not going to say I don't. Um, you know, I'm human, and far as I know, we're all human in human bodies. So we have those times where we can become fearful. But the creationship of what our timeline will be is decided by whether we stay in that fear, or do we find mental discipline and remind ourselves, okay, this is not a helpful energetic. It's not helping me individually. And like you said, you start doing a gratitude list for all the things that are going right in your life. And that's how we shift our energy back into a more high vibration, where the creationship, thought, word, and deed, where we're creating the timeline that we really wish to be on.
Yeah, and then by how you're feeling right now, you're choosing your timeline. So anything doesn't make you feel good, get out of it. Okay? And then focusing on something make you feel good. And then
Yeah.
your mind starts speaking, you are like escaping, like you're just putting your head in the sand. Shut that mind up, because the whole point is making you feel good, relax, peaceful. That's how you are aligning into more positive timeline. And that's very important for all of us to do, because we have a responsibility as a creator, especially who are light worker or star seed. We are in the front line. So our choice, what are we aligning ourselves into? Anything aligning ourselves into dividing us, that's including dark versus light. Anything division is 3D. Remember, any division is 3D.
Yep.
So easier for ourselves to focusing on our world, our work. You know, sometimes it's hard to do that. So meditate and bring yourself back into your regular vibration, or go outside and walk, watch dog video, cat video, makes you feel joy instead of focusing on other people are talking about how horrible it is, or just shut all that stuff off from your world.
Yeah, agree 110%. You know, you're talking about object meditation. So I was thinking we could give people some examples of tools of how to stay back and reorient yourself back into your own world. And so you're speaking of object meditation, and I use that all the time, all the time. When I find my mind, because my mind is always going so fast and it always wants more information and it wants to know what's next, because somewhere in there, there's a belief system that isn't totally resolved that says, if I know what's coming, then I can be prepared. Okay. And that's natural. I think that's a survival mechanism. But to quiet that down, that urge to know and have all the information or to be right about something, object meditation is very helpful. And so, as Erica suggested, you know, if you don't have animals in your immediate environment, watch a video. If you love animals, if you love watching artists paint, you know, spray painting, the taggers that are out there, it's incredible. Anything that brings you joy watching, get involved in that. Or notice in your environment the things that you really enjoy. You've put it in your environment for a reason. Maybe it is a piece of art, maybe it's the whoever's in the room with you. Maybe you have an affinity for them. Just start tuning in to something that brings you joy. And what that does is it creates, notice everything about it, the way they breathe, the hairs on the cat, the way the light hits their fur, anything like that. You start really getting into that object, and then your mind shuts down, and you're just being your observer self into something that brings you joy, and that shifts your energy.
Mm-hmm. And when you don't have a time to meditate, it's okay. You can go outside for a walk. Okay,
I'd
that's
say I'd
meditation.
say outside for a walk is meditative, because you're now focusing on objects that bring, nature is always very soothing.
Yeah, but some
So it is
people don't like
meditation.
meditation. So I'm just suggesting, like, people who don't believe in meditation or don't like meditation for some reason, you can go outside, walking, or you can simply do exercising, physical
Yeah.
exercising. When you exercise, you forget about everything. So exercise is a good tool.
Yeah.
Or dancing, like listen to music and dance.
Dancing is great. And I love even just the simplicity of housework. Yesterday, I had a lot of tension in my body. And so when I go ahead and I put on some good music that I enjoy and I just start doing my housework, it allows my mind to stop running overtime, and really get into the music. And then the motion of my body is allowing those energies to balance and release. So really, whatever it is you like to do, and for me, I like to kill two birds with one stone. So my house was clean and I felt a whole lot better.
That's a good idea. So we can use these kind of tools to bring yourself back into when you expose yourself to something, makes you feel down. You can bring that yourself back into by doing these things. So by more you aligning yourself with higher vibration means focusing on yourself, focusing on your inner world, then you can stabilize your vibration. And once you are stabilize your vibration and that's become your default vibration, then it's much easier for you to create a shift into better timeline.
Yeah. I'll just add one more thing. We have a personal responsibility for our reality. And this is why I suggest we be very mindful of our thoughts, our what we're thinking and engaging in. Because as Erica said, raising our vibration is the best way to create a good timeline. And how we do that is we're mindful of what we're allowing in. And we've given some suggestions on how to change that if it's not helpful, if it's not providing us the food for good thoughts. Um, but we are ultimately responsible. So if we're thinking a lot of other thoughts, then we suggest make a shift. Be aware of it. Say, oh, geez, I'm having all these negative thoughts. How can I shift that? And then go into the techniques that we talked about earlier with the object meditation, doing something that makes you feel good. But it is each of our responsibility for that. We can't blame the outside world, no
Yeah,
matter what's going on. We
yeah.
cannot blame the outside world for our own vibration. It is on us. The impetus is on us to take care of that and protect it.
Mm-hmm. And then when outside world of people makes you feel crazy, it's maybe good idea to disconnect yourself and have your alone time. Okay, it's not escaping when you stop engaging with certain people.
Yeah.
It's like
That's
a self-love.
self-care, self-care, self-love. Yes.
If you don't feel good interacting with certain people or being on certain social media page and putting comment on, get out if it doesn't make you feel good.
And set boundaries. There's another point that just slammed into my head. It's you know, I've had to have several conversations with people on social media, people that I call friend that I've known for a very long time, and we have a disagreement in our belief system. I've had to remind and say, it's fine that you don't agree with me. It's fine that I don't agree with you, but you know what? I love you, and that's why you're my friend. And
Mm-hmm.
this is why we've talked about this before. We've talked about the fact that we don't agree on these issues. But in the end, what really matters, we have made a soul connection. We care about each other, and we have included each other to continue on in our lives.
Yeah, that's
That's
healthy consciousness.
that's all that matters,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
We don't have to agree.
mm-hmm. It makes the world a more interesting place if we have different opinions. Can you believe we only have a one opinion? We don't grow.
Be pretty boring, I would say.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
I know a lot of you are might be, not having any kind of ease, might be feeling anxiety. So this is the best time for you to focusing on inside
yeah.
instead of outside. And what you don't like, what you see outside, disengage immediately.
And
And
if it's a family member and they're in your home, you set boundaries and say, I love you. Let's agree to disagree. Let's not even talk about it.
yeah,
We have so many other things that we come together on. Let's talk about those things.
yeah.
Until this intense energy passes, let's let it lie. We don't need to discuss it. We certainly don't need to argue. And
Mhm.
if there's a family member that refuses to do that, once you've set that boundary, then you might decide you want to limit your time with that family
That's
member. Just,
true.
you
Yeah,
know?
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not about who is right and who is wrong because that's a division, okay, guys? So if you don't feel good, anything doesn't makes you feel good, disengage, stop, and then immediately do something makes you happy, okay?
Yep.
That's what we wanted to share with you today. So thank you so much for watching. We're gonna bring a more interesting topic next week. Please share, like, subscribe. We see you next Friday. Bye.
Bye.